Mahidevran was a chief consort of Suleiman the Magnificent of the Ottoman Empire before Hürrem Sultan, and the mother of Şehzade Mustafa. Etymology: Mahidevran's name means one who is always beautiful, one whose beauty never fades, or beauty of the times. Another meaning of her name is moon of fortune. Quote, some sources name her Gülbahar, with gül meaning rose, and bahar meaning spring, in Turkish and Persian. Title and status: she is often referred to as Mahidevran Sultan in popular history books, TV series and touristic literature, whereas she is mostly referred to as Mahidevran Kadın by popular authors and historians. Some historians have referred to her as Mahidevran Hatun. According to Leslie P. Pierce, prior to the creation of the title Haseki Sultan for Hürrem Sultan, all Ottoman consorts carried an alternative royal title, Hatun. Though Mahidevran may not have been a Haseki, she was mother of Şehzade Mustafa, the eldest surviving son of the reigning sultan and most potential heir to the throne. Hence it can be asserted that she held an influential position in Suleiman's harem. According to Ottoman traditions, she was Suleiman's Kadın. As a Kadın, she was second in ranking in the harem after Valide Sultan. However, she was replaced as a chief consort by Hürrem Sultan when Suleiman freed and married her in a magnificent formal ceremony, making Hürrem his lawful wife. Origins and early life. Little is known of Mahidevran's early life. Her ethnic background is a matter of controversy. She was either an Albanian of Circassian. Theories of her origins are, according to some contemporary Venetian sources, she was of Circassian origin. By some other accounts, she was of Montenegrin origin. André Clot says she was probably of Tatar origin. According to the novel The Siege, she was originally named Rosna Pranva and the daughter of Abdullah Rakay, a wealthy Albanian musician. Turkish drama Mutesa Muziel also follows this view. According to an interview with Said Perizat Temrukoglu, an alleged descendant of Mahidevran, she was of Caucasus origin. According to Nikolai Georgia, she was from Montenegro. Life with Suleiman. Mahidevran is listed among the 17 women of the harem of Suleiman while he was governor of Manisa. She did not belong at this time to the first-ranked consorts, as she earned 4 aspas a day along with 2 other concubines, while 3 others earned 5 aspas. Mahidevran became Sultan's favorite. She possibly bore her husband another son, Şehzade Abdullah. When Selim I died in 1520, Suleiman moved to Constantinople, the capital of the Ottoman Empire, along with his family to ascend the throne. In 1521, Suleiman lost his 2 other sons, 9-year-old Mahmud and the toddler Murad. Mustafa became the eldest of his princely generation. Mahidevran became Suleiman's Kadın. In the Istanbul harem, Mahidevran had a very influential rival, Hürrem Sultan, who soon proved to be Suleiman's favorite. Hürrem gave birth to her first son Mehmed in 1521 and then Selim in 1524, destroying Mahidevran's status of being the mother of the Sultan's only son. The rivalry between the 2 women was partially suppressed by Aisha Hafsa, Suleiman's mother. According to Navagiro's report, as a result of the bitter rivalry, a fight between the 2 women broke out, with Mahidevran beating Hürrem, which angered Suleiman. According to Necdet Sakoglu, a Turkish historian, Turkish and foreign writers have written fictitious novels with dramatic scenes using Hürrem, Mahidevran, Gülfem and Hafsa Sultan, but these do not reflect the truth. Mahidevran left Istanbul with her son Mustafa due to his appointment as governor of Manisa subdivision, and upon his death in 1553 she went into refuge in Bursa, where she eventually died. The contention that Hürrem had fight with Gülfem is rather dubious. On the contrary, Hürrem never left the palace with any of her sons. The rumor that she witchcrafted Suleiman is untrue and fictitious. Hürrem had underage princes who were not to leave the imperial palace unless they turned 16. The youngest of Suleiman's princes, Şehzade Mustafa, was sick from birth. This required Hürrem to stay in the palace while her own sons were being sent for Sancak Bey. Foreign observers of the Ottomans, especially the ambassadors of the Venetian Republic, followed Ottoman dynastic politics closely. Their comments about Mahidevran, glimpses of the vital role played by a prince's mother and of her necessary devotion to this welfare. Pietro Bragadin, ambassador in the early years of Suleiman's reign, reported that while both were still resident in the imperial palace in Istanbul, Mustafa was his mother's whole joy. It was recorded from Bernardo Navigero that Suleiman highly cherished Mahidevran in Topkapi harem along with Hürrem, but by 1526, he had stopped paying attention to her and devoted her full affection to Hürrem. In 1533 or 1534, after Mahidevran's departure to Manisa, Suleiman married Hürrem in a magnificent formal ceremony, replacing Mahidevran as a main consort. However, Mahidevran remained Suleiman's Birinci Kadın. This affair made him the first Ottoman Sultan to wed since Orhan Gazi, violating a 200-year-old custom of the Ottoman imperial house according to which sultans were not to marry their concubines. Mustafa's provincial posts. According to Turkish tradition, all princes were expected to work as provincial governors as a part of the training. Mustafa was sent to Manisa in 1533 in the formal ceremony, and Mahidevran accompanied him, describing his court at Kara Imid near the Safavid border. Bassano wrote around 1540 that the prince had a most wonderful and glorious court, no less than that of his father, and that his mother, who was with him, instructs him in how to make himself loved by the people. At some point Mustafa returned to Manisa, and in 1542 he moved to Amasya. By 1546 three more of Suleiman's sons were in the field, and the competition for the succession began among the four princes. Although the Sultan would live for another 20 years, the ambassador Bernardo Navigero in a 1553 report has described Mahidevran's efforts to protect her son. Mustafa has with him his mother, who exercises great diligence to guard him from poisoning and reminds him every day that he has nothing else but this to avoid, and it is said that he has boundless respect and reverence for her. Mustafa was an immensely popular prince. When he was only 9, that Venetian ambassador had reported that he has extraordinary talent, he will be warrior, is much loved by the Janissaries, and performs great feats. Quote, in 1553, when Mustafa was 38 years old, Navigero wrote, "It is impossible to describe how much he is loved and desired by all as successor to the throne." The rumors and speculations said that, towards the end of Suleiman's long reign, the rivalry between his sons became evident, and furthermore, both Hürrem and the Grand Vizier Rustam Pasha turned him against Mustafa, and Mustafa was accused of causing unrest. During the campaign against Safavid Persia in 1553, Suleiman ordered the execution of Mustafa on charges of planning to dethrone his father. His guilt for the treason of which he was accused has since been neither proven nor disproven. Mahidevran was at the head of Mustafa's princely harem. She renovated the mosque founded by Aisha Hafsa at Manisa. She also established work in multiple charitable foundations at both Konya and Amasya. Up until the very end of her son's life, Mahidevran endeavored to protect Mustafa from his political rivals, and most probably maintained a network of informants in order to do so. The ambassador Trevisano related in 1554 that on the day Mustafa was executed, Mahidevran had sent a messenger warning him of his father's plans to kill him. Mustafa unfortunately ignored the message. According to Trevisano, he had consistently refused to heed the warnings of his friends and even his mother. Later years and death. For several years after her son's execution, Mahidevran Sultan lived a troubled life. She went to Bursa, where her son was buried, and became the last concubine to retire to Bursa. Less fortunate than her predecessors and presumably disgraced by her son's execution, she was unable to pay the rent on the house in which she lived, and her servants were taunted and cheated in the local markets. Mahidevran's situation improved towards the end of Suleiman's reign, when her debts were paid at the Sultan's order and a house was purchased for her, possibly by Suleiman's sole surviving son, Mustafa's half-brother Selim. Financially secure at last, Mahidevran had enough income to create an endowment for the upkeep of her son's tomb. Her rehabilitation have been possible only after the death in 1558 of her rival, Hürrem. Mahidevran died in 1581, outliving Suleiman and all of his children, and was buried in Mustafa's tomb. Bibliography. Pierce, Leslie. Wives and Concubines, the 14th and 15th centuries. The Imperial Harem. Women and Sovereignty in the Ottoman Empire. Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-508677-5.